The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Friday, February 27th. I'm not sure this is going to work. I guess we're going to see. You guys, I appreciate you keep coming back. But let's see what happens. Do you guys see a picture? Maybe? Video good, choppy. Doesn't sound like it's going to make it. Doesn't look good, huh? What are you guys seeing? I need input from you guys. Choppy video. I ran a test, and it was perfect. Video was perfect. So what is different now than when I ran the test? You guys on, that's the difference. When I ran the test, I ran it as a private video. So what is different now? What is different now? It's choppy. God. You can hear me. Sound good, video good, Joseph says. Maybe when you focus. No, I mean, I want to get this right. Bad video though. Video is frozen. Yeah, I mean the sound won't last if the video freezes all the time. But what the hell is going on? It's driving me nuts. Because as I said, I ran a test and it worked perfectly, and the video was great. Let's see if I'm just going to play around with this a little bit. So you guys are guinea pigs right now. I apologize. So just trying stuff out. All right. Just to see if anything happens. I mean, it's not. At least the stream is not dropping. The video is choppy. But no, the hotel Wi-Fi is fantastic. That's the point. Let me run the speed again. Speed test. Yeah, Wi-Fi, hotel Wi-Fi is great. Oh, Wildflyer says, "Hi, I was at school. You gave a talk at today. That is so cool." Is it? No, it's back. It's back. But is the video still? Yeah, video's still choppy. Now it's good. Yeah, it looks good. All right. That is not good. All right. Looks good. Definitely looks better. Okay, should we reboot? Let's do this 1 second. We're going to reboot a little. All right. Video good? Now all good sound and video. Here we go. We're going to start over.
The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Friday, February 27th. Try number 23. We're trying to make this work. Not sure exactly what's going on. It might be that the internet just drops once in a while here in the hotel, or the speed gets really slow, or something is going on. But it is really weird. All right, Miroslav writes, studio shows 2 errors. Suggestion: the stream's current bitrate is higher than the recommended bitrate. We recommended to use the stream bitrate of 2500, and it's a 6276. Miroslav, do you know where I changed the bitrate? Where do I actually make that change? 6K is crazy for bitrate, but where? Let me just check my settings. Stream output. Yeah, there it is. 2500. Apply. Okay. Miroslav, check to see if the bitrate is fixed. I changed the bitrate in OBS to 2500. I don't know why it was set at 6000. I haven't touched that ever. So I have no idea. It could all be a consequence of that. God, there's all kinds of stuff here that who knows if we're doing this right. All right, I'll have to investigate. I have no idea why the bitrate was such. Okay. Thank you guys for joining. I really, really appreciate it. And I know this has been difficult. I've been trying to do this now from yesterday and then again today. I wonder if the kid that was on earlier from the school is still on. Let's see, what was their handle? Wildflower. Wildflower, are you still on? Or have you dropped us? There, Wildflower is on. She says, or he says, is it a he or she? I don't know. Your talk was very engaging. Usually the lectures are less interesting, but I was interested in hearing an opposing point of view to what I usually hear. That was great. So today I was at a grammar school. Grammar schools, government schools, they're funded by the government, but they are selective schools. So you have to pass a test to get into a grammar school. There's a limited number of them in England, and there's a political backlash against them right now. Labour doesn't like them, obviously, because they're selective, so they feel like they're discriminatory. But grammar schools, the kids are really, really smart. And today I gave a talk in front of all of the, basically what they call 12th year. So it's the year before last at high school. So these are 16 and 17-year-olds. So Wildflower is 16 or 17. I'm guessing Wildflower is a girl. The school itself is girls only through 8th year, I think, and then 9, 10, 11, and then onwards, like high school is mixed. So there were probably, I don't know, 300 kids at my talk. The entire 12th year was there. I gave a talk on the morality of free markets, on why free markets are good. As Wildflower points out, it was an opposite view of what most of the kids believed, which is not surprising. That's true everywhere, all over the world. But it was terrific fun. The kids were super engaged. I don't think they were bored, and asked a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth. I think there was a real energy in the room, which was a lot of fun. Then after that, after the talk, I went to a classroom with about 35 students. These are politics students who are studying what are called A1. This is like, in the US would be like AP politics. And in AP politics in the UK, they read Ayn Rand. So in AP politics, Ayn Rand is in the curriculum. She's considered a conservative, a conservative thinker. And now she would be rolling in her grave if being labeled a conservative thinker, but they actually read sections out of Ayn Rand in the politics class, which is great, even if they do mischaracterize her as a conservative. So I got to spend another hour. My talk was about 40 minutes and then a Q&A with a big group. And then I got to spend another hour with the smaller group, which was basically mostly Q&A. I think Wildflower was in the second group as well. And it was really interesting. And again, a lot of fun. The kids are smart. They are mostly left-wing, which is typical of 16, 17-year-olds, I think, all over the world, everywhere in the world. They are, so they haven't really engaged with ideas around free markets, ideas around capitalism, what it is and how it functions, and the principles behind it. They have all the, I think, typical, regular, what I think, misconceptions about markets, how they work, what caused the Great Depression, the necessity of regulations and controls, because otherwise, businessmen would poison their clientele, and everything would fall apart, and there'd be no discipline. So it was really, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I pitched them on reading The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. I hope some of the kids pick up The Fountainhead and actually read it. If I just get one or two of them reading Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead, I'd consider this a huge success. So that's what I spent this morning. 8:45 was the beginning of the talk. It's in South London, way. So I'm in Central London. It took about an hour 20 minutes by Uber to get there, and it wouldn't have been faster by the tube, because there's no direct train that goes there. So it's far, and some of these kids commute to the school, because again, the school is special because it is a grammar school. It is a school that you have to test into. So the kids make a real effort to come there, and some of them travel long distances in order to get there. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I think the kids enjoyed it. I don't think they agreed. Most of them didn't agree. Wildflower certainly didn't. But as she says, I was interested in hearing an opposite point of view to what I usually hear, which is great. I mean, that's exactly what you want. That's exactly what education should be about, challenging you and introducing you to points of view and ideas that you wouldn't normally be exposed to. So, happy to have gone to the school and be part of it and participated, and I'm glad the kids enjoyed it. All right, tomorrow I am doing a seminar here in Central London. You can still sign up if you're in London and you'd like to come. Check out yaronbrookshow.com, yaronbrookshow.com, my website. Scroll down to February 28th events, and press on the button for tickets, and you'll get all the information about the event. It's going to be on capitalism. It's going to be 4 hours. It's going to be a small group. I think there are 7 now. If you still want to join, you can. You can even show up and just bring cash and pay me there. So feel free to come. It'll be fun. All right. Sebastian asked, cost for a book review. Do I have to pay for book? No, you don't have to pay for the book unless I can't find it. It's impossible to find. But it depends on the length of the book. So tell me which book you want, and I will tell you what it's going to cost. But it's not going to be cheap. Books are thick. They take a long time to read. It's not like watching a movie. So I think the last book I did was $500. The Ride the Tiger by Vola. So that'll give you some sense of what's involved, and that was not a very thick book. All right, let's jump into some news. I'm not going to talk a lot about the news today because with all the hassle of setting this up and figuring it out. I don't want to do a long show today. It's already late over here. All right, let's. I think the main piece of news right now, I think the most important piece of news right now is I'm just scanning the news. We'll get to that story in a minute. Oh yeah, here's the breaking story. We'll get to Anthropic in a minute. The Anthropic is the big news, I think, of the day. But let me do this. I mean, again, this is breaking news. Who knows? Verify it. This is going to Oman's Foreign Minister Badr El Busaidi, who supposedly told CBS today that an agreement between Iran and the United States is actually within reach. That Iran has agreed to give up its stockpile of enriched material, the one that supposedly was destroyed in June. Turns out it wasn't. And to allow full verification of its nuclear program by the International Atomic Energy Agency. In addition, it says they're willing to stop enrichment. That is zero accumulation of new uranium, no more enrichment. That is, again, according to Oman. So if that is the case, and that's basically what Trump's been asking for, Israel would like the ballistic missiles gone. Israel would like their support for Hezbollah and for the Houthis gone. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. We'll see if Trump decides to cut a deal. Iran is giving him, if this is true, and I'm not sure it is true, then Iran is playing Trump again. If he believes this, he'll try to make a deal. He'll claim this is a better deal than Obama's, but who knows? And there's no reason. And of course, much of what was demanded is not going to be supplied. So let's wait and see if this actually happens. But that is the latest and greatest in terms of news about Iran. The Anthropic news is interesting. We talked about this. The other day. We talked about the fact that Anthropic has basically told the Defense Department. Anthropic right now is the only AI program integrated into the Defense Department, and it's integrated primarily through Palantir, but is being used by the Defense Department actively it's used actively in the Pentagon. It was used in the raid on Maduro. Wildflower has a question. Wildflower, I will get your question in a bit. Let me talk about the Anthropic point, and then I'll get your question. I see it. Usually, I ask people to do a super chat, which is to pay me for the questions. But given you're a high school student, and given you just heard me today, and you weren't in the politics class, and you're following me here, that's great, or you're at least listening here, that's great. I will answer your question in a few minutes. So if you remember, Anthropic is well integrated into the Defense Department, and but it has the Defense Department has demanded from Anthropic that it allow its AI to be used for all activities that the Defense Department deem appropriate. That is, Anthropic is asked to give total control over the AI to the Defense Department. Anthropic is saying, no, there are two things we do not want our software to be used for. One is domestic surveillance, and two is in weapons that are autonomous. That is, weapons that make decisions to fire independent of a human being. We do not want our AI in that kind of weapon. We don't want our AI to make those kind of decisions to pull the trigger. I think these are incredibly reasonable decisions. They're basically saying we completely support the Defense Department. Let me read you from the statement. I'll read you in the statement in a minute. Anyway, Hegseth has basically told them, if you do not agree to all of our terms, if you do not agree to let Anthropic be used by the Defense Department at its own discretion for whatever we deem right, then not only we will not use Anthropic anymore, but we will deem you a risk to the supply chain and make you persona non grata for anything related to defense, which will make many other companies not be able to use Anthropic. So this is a huge potential blow to Anthropic, which is the kind of the leading AI program. This is kind of unprecedented for the Pentagon to basically try to blackmail a company into doing what it wants. It's one thing to say we're not going to use you. It's another thing to say we're going to put you on a list that we only usually include Chinese companies and Iranian companies on that list. Anyway, Hegseth gave them a deadline until earlier today, to make a decision. This is the statement from Anthropic's CEO. I believe deeply in the existential importance of using AI to defend the United States and other democracies and to defeat our autocratic adversaries. Anthropic has therefore worked proactively to deploy our models to the Department of War and the intelligence community. We were the first frontier AI company to deploy our models in the U.S. government's classified networks, the first to deploy them at the national laboratories, and the first to provide custom models for national security customers. Claude is exclusively deployed across the Department of War and other national security agencies for mission-critical applications such as intelligence analysis, modeling and simulation, operational planning, cyber operations, and more. Anthropic has also acted to defend America's lead in AI, even when it is against the company's short-term interest. We chose to forego several $100 million in revenue to cut off the use of Claude by firms linked to the Chinese Communist Party, some of whom have been designated by the Department of War as Chinese military companies. We've shut down CCP-sponsored cyber attacks that attempted to abuse Claude and have advocated for strong export controls on chips to ensure democratic advantage. Anthropic understands that the Department of War, not private companies, make military decisions. We have never raised objections to particular military operations, nor attempted to limit use of our technology in an ad hoc manner. However, in a narrow set of cases, we believe AI can undermine rather than defend democratic values. Some uses are also simply outside the bounds of what today's technology can safely and reliably do. Two such use cases have never been included in our contracts with the Department of War, and we believe they should not be included now. First, mass domestic surveillance. We support the use of AI for lawful foreign intelligence and counterintelligence missions. But using these systems for mass, emphasis on mass, domestic surveillance is incompatible with democratic values. AI-driven mass surveillance presents serious, novel risks to our foundational liberties. To the extent that such surveillance is currently legal, this is only because the law has not yet caught up with the rapidly growing capabilities of AI. For example, under current law, the government can purchase detailed records of Americans' movement, web browsing, and associations from public sources without obtaining a warrant. A practice the intelligence community has acknowledged raises privacy concerns and that has generated bipartisan opposition in Congress. Powerful AI makes it impossible to assemble this scattered individual innocuous data into a comprehensive picture of any person's life automatically and at massive scale. The second thing they object to is fully autonomous weapons. Partially autonomous weapons, like those used today in Ukraine, are vital to the defense of democracy. Even fully autonomous weapons, those that take humans out of the loop entirely and automate selecting and engaging targets, may prove critical for our national defense. But today, frontier AI systems are simply not reliable enough to power fully autonomous weapons. We will not knowingly provide a product that puts America's warfighters and civilians at risk. We have offered to work directly with the Department of War and R&D to improve the reliability of these systems, but they have not accepted this offer. In addition, without proper oversight, fully autonomous weapons cannot be relied upon to exercise the critical judgment that our highly trained professional troops exhibit every day. They need to be deployed with proper guardrails, which don't exist today. To our knowledge, these two exceptions have not been a barrier to accelerating the adoption and use of our models within our armed forces to date. The Department of War stated that they will only contract with AI companies who accede to any lawful use and remove safeguards in the cases mentioned above. They have threatened to remove us from their systems if we maintain these safeguards. They have also threatened to designate us a supply chain risk, a label reserved for U.S. adversaries, never before applied to an American company, and to invoke the Defense Production Act to force the safeguards removal. These latter two threats are inherently contradictory. One labels us a security risk, the other labels Claude as essential to national security. Regardless, these threats do not change our position. We cannot, in good conscience, accede to their request. It is the department's prerogative to select contractors most aligned with their vision. But given the substantial value that Anthropic's technology provides to armed forces, we hope they reconsider. Our strong preference is to continue to serve the department and our warfighters with our two requested safeguards in place. Should the department choose to offboard Anthropic, we will work to enable a smooth transition to another provider, avoiding any disruptions to ongoing military planning, operations, and other critical missions. Our models will be available on the expansive terms we have proposed for as long as required. We remain ready to continue our work to support the nation's security, the national security of the United States. That's a statement. I think it's an excellent statement by Anthropic. I think they're absolutely right. I think it's ridiculous that the government is going to try to force them and to penalize them in this context, right? I will note that Ayn Rand published, I'm going to read this to you. Ayn Rand published a short piece. Actually, these remarks were delivered at MIT in March 1962. This is Ayn Rand. They were addressed to the students who are to be America's future scientists. So here's what she wrote. We're living in an age when every social group is struggling frantically to destroy itself, and doing it faster than any of its rivals or enemies could hope for. When every man is his own most dangerous enemy, and the whole of mankind is rolling at supersonic speed back to the Dark Ages, with a nuclear bomb in one hand and a rabbit's foot in the other. The most terrible paradox of our age is the fact that the destruction of man's mind, of reason, of logic, of knowledge, of civilization, is being accomplished in the name and with the sanction of science. It took centuries and volumes of writing to bring our culture to its present state of bankruptcy, and volumes would have to be written to expose, counteract, and avert the disaster of a total intellectual collapse. But of all the deadly theories by means of which you are now being destroyed, I would like to warn you about one of the deadliest and most crucial, the alleged dichotomy of science and ethics. You have heard the theory so often and from so many authorities that most of you now take it for granted, as an axiom, as the one absolute taught to you by those who proclaim that there are no absolutes. It is the doctrine that man's science and ethics, or his knowledge and values, or his body and soul are two separate, antagonistic aspects of his existence, and that man is caught between them as a precarious, permanent traitor to their conflicting demands. Science, they tell you, is the province of reason, but ethics, they say, is the province of a higher power, which man's impotent, fallible intellect must, must not be so presumptuous as to challenge. What power? Why, feelings. Before you accept that doctrine, identify concretely and specifically what it means. Remember that ethics is a code of values to guide man's choices and actions. The choices and actions that determine the purpose and course of his life. It means that you, as scientists, are competent to discover new knowledge, but not competent to judge for what purpose that knowledge is to be used. Your judgment is to be disqualified when, and because it is rational, while human purposes are to be determined by representatives of non-reason. Hegseth. You are to create the means, but they are to choose the ends. You are to work and think and strain all the power, energy, and ingenuity of your mind to its utmost logical best and produce great achievements, but those superior others will dispose of your achievements by the grace and guidance of their feelings. Your mind is to be the tool and servant of their whims. You are to create the H-bomb, but a blustering Russian anthropoid will decide when he feels like dropping it on whom. Yours is not to reason why. Yours is just to do and provide the ammunition for others to die. Oh, this is longer than I thought it was. That's pretty good. From Plato's Republic onward, all statist collectivists have looked longingly at the anthill as at a social ideal to be reached. An anthill is a society of interdependent insects, with each particular kind or class is physiologically able to perform only one specific function. Some are milch cows, some are toilers, a few are rulers. Collectivist planners have dreamed for a long time of creating an ideal society by means of eugenics, by breeding men into various castes physiologically able to perform only one specific function. Your place in such a society would be that of toiling milch brains, of human computers who would produce anything on demand and would be biologically incapable of questioning the orders of the anthropoid who'd throw them their food rations. Does your self-esteem accept such a prospect? All right. I mean, you get the point, right? Let me just see. The point is that you as scientists, let me just see. If you're now starting on a career in science, you do not have to share the guilt of those men, but you do have to reclaim the field in honor of science. There's only one way to do it, by accepting the moral principle that does not surrender one's mind into blind servitude to thugs. And one does not accept the job of munitions maker for Attila's conquest of the world. Not for any Attila, actual or potential, foreign or domestic. There's only one way to implement that principle. Throughout history, with only a few exceptions, government have claimed the right to rule men by means of physical force. That is, by terror and destruction. When the potential of terror and destruction reaches today's scale, it should convince every human being that if mankind is to survive, Attila's concept of government must be discarded, along with the alleged right of any man to impose their ideas or wishes on others by initiating the use of physical force. This means that men must establish a free, non-coercive society where the government is only a policeman protecting individual rights, where force is used only in retaliation or self-defense, where no gang can seize the legalized power to unleash the reign of terror. Such a society does not have to be invented. It had existed, though not fully. Its name is capitalism. This connects to the talk I gave this morning. Needless to say, capitalism does not force individuals or nations into the collectivistic slave pen of a world government. The so-called one world is merely one neck ready for one leash. Capitalism leaves men free for self-defense, but gives no one the political means to initiate force or war. This, not physical but political disarmament, the renunciation of legalized brute force as a way of life, is the only means of saving the world from nuclear destruction. I'd say Anthropic is just taking a moral stand. taken a moral stand and said, you're not going to use the product of our mind. You're not going to use the product of our mind in ways that we do not approve of. And, you know, it's fine if you don't want to hire us. But you see, the Defense Department wants to force them. It wants to use the Defense Production Act in order to force them to supply the product. So good for Anthropic. Anthropic is doing the right thing. There was a, let me just see if I can find this. I thought there was some statement by Trump about this to give you a sense of what Attila looks like. Yeah, here it is. I mean, note the statement, Anthropic CEO, and the quality of what he said. Now, this is Donald Trump. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nut jobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. As if he knows what the Constitution says. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it, we don't want it, and will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply, with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. God. We will decide the fate of the country, not some out-of-control, radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about, yet somehow they designed the most sophisticated AI product in the marketplace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, the guy's a moron and an evil bastard on top of that. I mean, fine, they can cancel the contract, so be it. But the vitriol and the whole government is going to drop Anthropic, and the penalizing and the, aggressiveness of this. It's just horrific. It's truly horrific. By the way, of course, Elon Musk's XAI has already jumped in and said, oh, we'll provide you with AI and you can use it for whatever you want. A lot of people in the Defense Department are like, I don't think XAI is good enough for what we need it to do. What are we doing here? This is politically motivated. This is not the best product. OpenAI might jump in to take Anthropic's place. Other AI companies might agree to the Defense Department demands. But let me just use this opportunity to congratulate Anthropic and to say good for them. They've taken a moral stand. You might agree with the details or disagree with the details, but it's a private company. They get to decide how their product is used. They've taken a stand with this regard, and good for them. And shame on Donald Trump, shame on this administration for treating them as an enemy of the United States because they're exercising their rights as an American company. We don't live in an authoritarian place where you have to do what the government tells you to do. All right. That, I think, was the main story. I do recommend you read this essay fully. Two Young Scientists. It is just being posted on, it's in the Voice of Reason, but it's just being posted for free on Ayn Rand.org. So you can find it on campus.aynrand.org. Just search Two Young Scientists, Ayn Rand, and you'll find it. Highly recommend you read the whole thing, and you read it slowly, not fast like I did. So go for it and enjoy. All right, let me quickly look at Wildflower's question and see. Let me see if I can find it. I know some of you might have been trying to answer that question already. If you have, I hope you're being polite and nice. Remember, this is a high school student that is not familiar with Ayn Rand's ideas, is just being introduced to them. Okay, Wildflower says, I didn't get a chance to ask you a question, actually, as I don't take politics. I do have a question, though. When you talk about something having value, okay, such as a product, do you think we should primarily focus on monetary value? Or is non-price competitiveness also a large factor? I noticed when you were talking about capitalism and its benefits, you were primarily focused on the pricing aspects. So look, the thing about value, let's take the pricing first, is different things have different values for different people. I might value an iPhone at well over $1,000. Other people might say, no, I mean, my $1,000 is more valuable in my pocket than an iPhone. The beauty of capitalism is that we don't force our values on others. If people don't want to buy an iPhone, they don't have to. If people don't like that particular shirt, if people don't like those particular shoes, they don't have to buy them. They get to buy what they believe makes their life better. They get to buy what, they think will be a worthwhile trade. That is a trade that benefits them, where what they're giving up is less than what they're getting. Now, it is absolutely true that many trades in life, many values in life, are not monetary values. I mean, you can think of, for example, moral values. Moral values, the value of being a good person, the value of pursuing the good, that can be measured in money. That is a value. A value is that which one acts to gain or keep. Value is the things that we, in a sense, want and are willing to do stuff to get. And for example, the trying to become a good person, doing the work to become a good person, is not something you put a monetary value on. It's in a sense precedes any monetary value. But even there are other things that exist out there in the marketplace that might not have a monetary value. You guys didn't pay for my lecture today, so I gave a talk, and you seem to have found it interesting. And you, the students, didn't pay. You got something for free. Now, if you enjoyed it, then it's a value to you. If you're watching the show right now, hopefully you're getting some value out of it. That's a non-monetary value because you're not paying me, and I'm delivering it to you even though you haven't paid for it. So there are lots of transactions, there are lots of relationships, there are lots of things that we do in life that are not monetary. So some aspects of our life, like when we go to the grocery store and buy the stuff that we need to eat, that's a monetary transaction. And again, a monetary transaction we all do differently because we all have different values. We all like different types of food. So the transaction is going to be, we're all going to interact with the grocery store in a different way. But there are plenty of non-monetary values out there. One of the uses I use for my phone is to listen to music. The value I get from listening to music is a spiritual value. It's not a monetary value. It's not something I put dollars to. But to create that music, somebody had to invest money. To provide that music to me, somebody had to put money. So money is not incidental to values. Money is necessary for the creation of values. There are very few values that are not that don't require, any kind of financing, any kind of money. Now, I don't know, I'm not sure if I answered your question. I'm happy to take a follow-up, Wildflower. Wildflower says, take Dua. People will buy a bag from Dua for hundreds of pounds, but it's not necessarily better quality. They just prefer it. They just prefer it as it has the name. Yes, and they get to buy what they want. I mean, my view is it's a waste of money. I don't value Dua. I don't value labels, but some people do, for whatever reason, for whatever subjective reason they have, and therefore they will value that thing much higher than I value it. And the beauty of a marketplace is I don't have to support what I consider their irrational desire for a labeled good. I don't have to buy the labeled good. I don't want my money taken from me and given to them so they can buy the labeled good. In a free market, people who desire Chanel and Dior and Louis Vuitton can go and buy them. People who don't desire them, don't buy them. The beauty of a marketplace is it provides the values people want. If people stop buying Chanel because they don't want to buy labels anymore, Chanel will go out of business. As long as people buy it, it's a value to those people. So one of the mistakes people have is they think that a value is something inherent in the thing. It's intrinsic to the thing. But a value is not intrinsic. A value is personal. A value is to whom, for every value you have to ask to whom and for what. Who is the value for? That is, who is the valuer? And what do they value it for? And we all have different values, and that's fine. It's certainly fine in the marketplace, and the marketplace is built for that. When it comes to moral values, it would be better if there wasn't such a great divergence in terms of what our values are. It would be better if those values were more similar, put it that way. There'd be less conflict in the world if our values were more similar around things like morality. All right. Wildflower, feel free to ask any follow-up questions. I know other people have answered your questions, but if you'd like to follow up, I'm happy to answer them. Right. So if people paying a high price, they're not necessarily paying for higher quality. They're paying for what they want. Maybe what they want is the label. I don't understand it. It doesn't mean anything to me. But it might be fine for them. All right. Let me take some of your questions. Ryan was funding Wildflower's question. I didn't even notice that. So Ryan says, funding Wildflower's question, when you talk about something having value, such as a product, do you think we should primarily focus on monetary value or non-price competitiveness, also a large factor? I don't think it's properly formulated because the follow-on was around luxury products and labels and stuff like that. I think what that represents is really the fact that we all value different things for different reasons, for different purposes. And I don't value labels. I don't value Chanel. I don't value Dior and these things. I don't buy them. It's not a value for me. Chanel is not a value for me. I'm not interested in them. For other people, having the label is important to them. For whatever reason it happens to be. I think mostly irrational reasons, but whatever reason it happens to be. So they buy it. So again, there's no, the beauty of capitalism is that it provides this variety of goods at different price points, different quality points, different labels for different people based on their particular values, what they value. All right, Sebastian, I think I answered your question about the books. Harrison, could I get a shout out for feed rate command on Spotify? feed rate command on Spotify. I don't know what that is, which is where I'm putting all the music, currently over 2 hours worth of songs, I've been making with AI. Yeah, if you guys are interested in AI music that Harrison has been making, check out feed rate, that's one word, feed rate command on Spotify, and check it out. See if you like it. See if you like, what is AI is producing with Harrison's guidance. Ryan said, did you get to watch the State of the Union? I avoided it because you were going to jump on the grenade and report back. Jump on the grenade is frigging right. I read much of it. I didn't watch it. I can't watch him. He's just too awful. I read much of it. And then I was like, hey, I'm glad I didn't listen to this. It was a complete show. It was a complete waste of time. It lasted forever. It was the longest State of the Union ever. I predicted it would be. But it was a show with a hockey team coming out and everybody giving a standing ovation and then baiting the Democrats to applaud something. It wasn't even like a Bill Clinton State of the Union, which is, here are the 35 different things that I'm going to ask Congress to do. There was no legislative agenda. There was nothing of meaning, of value in the State of the Union. It was complete hogwash. It was his lies about the state of the world, how great it is, and a few things that he wants to do vis-a-vis the economy, banning private equity from buying homes, as if that will make any difference. It won't, and a few other things. But it was basically contentless. There was no content in it. It was one long campaign speech rant. He played it. He played it perfectly. He baited the Democrats. He fed his MAGA people red meat, but it was a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. There's no value. Literally, you didn't learn anything about what the president wants to do, about what might happen, about nothing. Michael, do people know on some level altruism is impractical or unrealistic, but have to abide by it to some extent, or the alternative is a world of inhumane heartlessness? I don't think people really engage in it that much. That is, do they know at some level? Sure, at some level they know. But what exactly do they know? What exactly do they know? There's a certain sense that they have a certain discomfort. They don't want to be altruistic. They don't want to sacrifice themselves. And it is true that they are also fed this lie that in a world without altruism, it would be dog eat dog and everything would be horrific. So this is the best we have. I think that was my attitude to altruism when I was a teenager. It was like, I don't quite get it, why I should sacrifice my life for other people. But I don't see what the alternative is. I don't see how you get out of it. And this is why I think it's so important to get people to read Ayn Rand, why it's so important to get them to read the books and encounter these ideas and engage with them. So at least they have in their mind an alternative, particularly when they're young and they can still change. Right? After a certain age, it's very difficult for people to change. Wildflower has come back and says, in a free market without regulation, how do you correct the exploitation of consumers by monopoly power, if that makes any sense? Yes, but the real point is that in a true free market, monopolies, as we understand them, don't exist because there's always competition. There's always somebody trying to beat you. And there are plenty of historical examples of this, historical examples where companies have massive market shares. And you'd expect them to exploit consumers by raising prices and lowering quality. That's what they teach you in Economics 101. They teach you in college, they teach you everywhere, that what monopolists do is they raise prices and lower quality. But when you actually look at the real world in places where there are even a little bit of free markets, what you find is that companies don't do that. And the question is, why don't they? Right? They've got monopoly power, supposedly. They've got the market share. They could raise prices and lower quality. But they don't. They literally, the empirical data shows they don't. So why? Well, because they know. A good CEO, a good businessman knows that if he starts exploiting his customers, competitors will arise. There's always somebody who is eager to take market share away from you. There's always somebody willing to build a better mousetrap, willing to build a better product, offer it at a better price, try to undercut you and take away some of your market share. Always, in any industry. And even when the barriers to entry, that is, it requires a lot of capital to invest in order to build an alternative, capitalists are eager to fund people who can beat monopolists, because that means that they can take market share away from monopolists, they can grow, there's a real business there. And the businesses have been proven by the so-called monopolist. So business leaders just don't exploit their customers for that reason. They know competitors will arise. Now there's another reason, and that is, or there are other reasons depending on the products, but there are products also. So for example, Standard Oil in 1870s in the United States had 93% of all their refining capacity in the United States of oil. And yet they didn't raise prices. They didn't lower quality, quite the opposite. They lowered prices every single day and quality went up. Why? Because they knew that if they lower prices and increased quality, adoption would increase. More and more people would buy their oil. And then more and more uses for that oil will be discovered. For example, oil got so cheap that when automobiles were being invented and people were looking at different types of motors and how to fuel them and how to run them, oil was so cheap and so well made at that point that it was adopted as fuel for automobiles. There were competitors. And so the market that Rockefeller had expanded dramatically because he kept prices low. And in spite of that, there was still massive competition. So by the time he was broken up by antitrust laws by the government, he only had 60-something% of the market because competitors had arisen and taken away much of his market share. So there's always competition. You know, Google controls search, but now there's AI. And with AI, we've got a new, incredibly powerful search engine that is going to dethrone Google from the search so-called monopoly. So don't buy into the story of monopolies. The more free market a market is, the fewer monopolies there will be. The monopolies that are really damaging, that raise prices, lower quality, are government-run monopolies or government-granted monopolies, monopolies that are protected by the government. Those are the monopolies we need to get rid of. Those are the monopolies that do harm. In the private market, where there's real competition, monopolies don't exist. A good question, Wildflower. Thank you. Clark. ICE is in retreat. Trump is extremely unpopular. Iran is on the verge of collapse. The Enlightenment wins again. Well, you're pretty optimistic. ICE is in retreat in Minneapolis, but they're still rounding up people all over the country and still using pretty aggressive tactics. In Minneapolis itself, a judge just put out a statement today saying that ICE, the Department of Homeland Security, is ignoring the courts, is in violation of numerous court orders, and he is about it's a furious statement about ICE. So ICE is not completely in retreat, but slowly, maybe a little bit, and that's only because people stood up against it. Trump is extremely unpopular, true. So the Democrats, by the way, but it's good that Trump is extremely unpopular. Iran is on the verge of collapse. Maybe. I hope so. I hope so. Demonstrations continue. But, I still am not convinced that the United States is going to strike Iran. Iranians are playing the Americans in the negotiations. They're playing them to give them a sense that maybe a deal is in the making. And Trump clearly prefers a deal. Trump is angling for a deal almost at any price. All right, guys, let's see. Let me thank the sticker people. I saw Selfish subscriber, thank you. Kim, thank you. Jacob, thank you. Wes, $50, thank you. Really appreciate that. Ryan, thank you for the sticker in addition to the questions. I appreciate it. All right, thank you guys. And you too can jump in with a sticker just to show your appreciation. It can be as low as $1, $2, anything. Of course, you can also ask a question, and by asking a question, contribute to the content of the show. I will answer all the questions asked, so please consider doing that. Today's a short show because of all the mess with the internet connection. It's late over here. It's already 11 o'clock. I'd like to get to sleep. I'm doing my seminar on capitalism tomorrow. If you're in London and you'd like to participate, you can show up. Wildfire says, thank you so much. Have a nice rest of your time in UK. Thanks, Wildfire. One last comment. Check out Ayn Rand. Check out The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged. If you're a reader, try those out, particularly The Fountainhead. They're great novels. Put aside whether you agree with the ideas, capitalism, all of that. Put that aside. Just read it for the novel. But I highly encourage you to engage with Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged as books, as novels. You can find them in bookstores anywhere in the UK, or of course on Amazon. All right, Liam, part 1. In regard to double jeopardy and the government not being allowed to continue to prosecute someone after they've been acquitted, how does justice get brought to someone like OJ? I understand the risks of letting the government continue to prosecute somebody until they find a jury that will convict them. But with double jeopardy, some guilty men will definitely go free. Yes, they will. That is a reality. Luckily for us, in a sense, reality will not let them be free, or will not let them go unpunished. Will not let them go unpunished. And the reality is that OJ lived a miserable, pathetic life after the acquittal in his trial. He landed up being in jail for something else that he did. He landed up losing a civil lawsuit against him based on the murder. He landed up being a miserable, pathetic human being for the rest of his life. So reality catches up to people like that. But yeah, I'd rather, generally, I think the principle is we'd rather let a guilty man go free than prosecute an innocent man, or give the government so much power that they might harass an innocent man through ongoing, continuous prosecution. So reality caught up to him. There's also civil law, so you can sue. They did sue him for damages, which he had to pay. His children turned their backs on him. I mean, he lived a miserable life. So. And that's true of all evil people. So reality is the ultimate punisher of bad people. They live in misery. Yeah, I was going to say, the seminar on capitalism, if you still want to come, you can bring cash or sign up. I think you still sign up tonight. And it's at the W Hotel in London on the second floor. Incentive London, 1 p.m. It'll be 4 hours. So yeah, it's £300 for the 4 hours. So join us. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, Tyler. My wife and I had a wonderful dinner at Bar Miller last week in New York City. TJ and James were so welcoming. Yeah, they're fantastic. And a fun meetup with Jeff the following day. Wow, that's great. Thanks so much for the recommendation and for all your content. That's wonderful. I'm glad you spent some time at Bar Miller. I'm glad you got to meet Jeff, which reminds me I need to write to Jeff that I'm going to be in New York and either Bar Miller, we should go out to dinner somewhere. And but yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Absolutely. And everybody, if you're in New York, check out Bar Miller. They just had their Michelin star renewed a few weeks ago, and the food is fantastic. And yeah, check them out. Wesley, let's say you were in Trump's shoes right now. Oh my God. What would you do with respect to Iran? I'd basically start bombing them yesterday. I would go after regime targets. I would try to kill Khamenei. I would go after the entire leadership of the regime, the Islamist leadership. I would try to destroy as much of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard as I could. I would not even focus on the nuclear stuff, unless I thought they were really close to a nuclear weapon. I would focus on regime change. I would focus on destroying the regime's capacity to defend itself from its own people. I would destroy the Basij, those units that go out and suppress the population, suppress the demonstrations. They have headquarters in Tehran and other cities. I would destroy all of those. I would destroy their missile capabilities. The only risk that they pose to America and to Israel is the ballistic missiles. I would destroy using bunker buster bombs. I would destroy the inventory of missiles, and I would destroy the missiles, the launches. I would basically decapitate the regime and destroy their capacity to make war. And I would do it immediately. And the assets all in place. The USS Ford is off the coast of Haifa in Israel. It's there to defend the Israeli airspace. The fighter jets are there, the bomber jets are there, the refuelers are there, all the assets are there. There's absolutely zero reason to wait one day, and no deal are the Iranians going to stick to. And why would you believe them? So all of this is for the Iranians to buy time. All of this is try to deceive Donald Trump and to manipulate him into doing a deal. They know he's easy to manipulate, and that's what they're doing. So yeah, bomb them. Bomb regime targets into oblivion. Michael says, confidence is quiet, insecurity is loud. I think generally that's true. Harrison. The last album published by Feed Rate Command was called Built Not Granted, and every song ties into work, from songs about different concrete kinds of jobs to the work of colonizing the solar system. Sounds cool. All done by AI. But Harrison's guidance, right? So check it out. It's on Spotify. Clark Young, do you think Trump wants Israel to attack Iran first? I don't know. I don't quite understand that reasoning, why he would want that. I think he wants Iran to attack first. I mean, I think he wouldn't mind if Iran launched a preemptive attack against Israel, because that would give Israel an excuse, and then the United States can back him up. But I don't understand the reasoning for wanting Israel to strike first, maybe to test out their defense systems. But maybe, I don't know. I read the news stories about this. They don't make any sense to me. I'm fine with that, whatever. I mean, if Israel has to strike first, so be it. The main thing is destroy this Iranian regime, whatever it takes. Hopper Campbell. Thank you, Hopper. $100. Wow. Really appreciate it. Was the West thoroughly demoralized from Kant in 1939? That's why Hitler was able to get as far as he did despite operating on such a defective system. Western countries basically let him do what he wanted in the beginning, even though they had the power to stop him. Yes, but I think it's a mistake to demoralize by Kant. I think that's a mistake. I think to try to attribute everything to Kant is not helpful and not useful, and I think it's not cognitively a value. There's a sense in which it all goes back to Kant, yes. But it's not worthwhile to hold it that way. The West, in 1939, was compromising. It had tried to appease Hitler. It was driven by appeasement throughout the 1930s as Hitler came to power and started his aggressive. It led to the Munich Agreement, and it also led Britain and the United States. The United States didn't even enter the war until late 1941, but European countries not to arm themselves fully, even though Churchill kept saying we need to arm, we need to build a military. The appeasing the people who wanted to believe in peace, wanted to believe that Hitler wouldn't do what he said he would do, that peace would ultimately win out. Those people appeased and compromised and refused to arm themselves, and as a consequence, the West was very weak, and Hitler could get away with what he got away with. So it's appeasement, compromise, and a lack of appreciation for how evil is, and for the willingness of evil to actually do evil things. And I think we still suffer from that. I mean, look how we treat, particularly this president, how we treat Putin, how Trump is going to go next month to China, is going to grovel all over Xi. We still appease and compromise, dictate with dictators. We still don't have kind of a backbone and stand up for our own values and our own principles. We're still, not positioning ourselves to defeat the powers of evil arrayed against us. So yes, there's a sense in which it always goes back to Kant, but it goes to the heart of abandoning of not being willing to face reality and to place wishes above facts. And it goes back to Christianity as much as it goes back to Immanuel Kant. It goes to not wanting to be too assertive because that's selfish. It goes to thinking the best of people even when they've shown the capacity for evil. It's all of these ideas that, you could link them to Kantian ideas ultimately, because it's an anti-reason epistemology, and it's a metaphysics of evading reality. But it's much more interesting to talk about the specifics of that period of history, the specific ideas affecting the people at that time, the leftist socialist ideas that were affecting England, and to try to understand what it is that those people were thinking that allowed them to evade reality, to ignore the facts, and to pretend that things were going to be different than what they turned out to, what they clearly were indicating they would be. And that's a whole chain of ideas, and it's an attitude, and it's a lack of courage, and it's a lack of self-esteem. There's no accident that this is a time where the British Empire is in decline. It's not an accident that this is post-World War I, where the Brits suffered massive casualties for war that they were never sure why they were in and what they fought for. They were sick of war. They didn't want war. Those were also important features about why they compromised with Hitler and in a sense, put themselves in a position to be as weak as they were, in the early part of the war. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you, Harper. Non-savage algorithm. Why didn't Trump almost getting assassinated change him, make him have an existential crisis and introspect? Oftentimes near-death experiences make people reevaluate their narcissism and second-handedness. I doubt that. I really, really doubt that near-death experiences makes people reevaluate their narcissism. Maybe in movies. I don't think in reality. I don't think that actually happens. I would also say that Trump viewed the assassinations as just affirming his beliefs. The evil of the left, they're out to get him. He is a victim. It just confirmed, the worst elements within him. It didn't change him. It confirmed everything he believed, at least in his own mind. So no, but I don't think near-death experiences actually are that meaningful in people's lives. So it's yeah, the left hates me. I have to destroy the left. Yeah, I've been chosen by destiny to survive because it was such a fluke. Whether he believes in God or not, doesn't believe in God. He believes in something because, there's no question in my mind there's an element of mysticism in him. And he believes he's been put on this earth. He has some kind of purpose. He doesn't quite know what it is. That's part of one of the advantages. If he did, he'd be worse. Anyway, yeah. James, why does someone selfishly become a social worker or start a charity in a free society? Well, why does somebody in a free society become a doctor? In what fundamental way is being a doctor different than being a social worker? You're helping people. You're helping people who are in trouble. A social worker helps people that are struggling with poverty. The poverty might be accidental to them, it might not be their fault, or it might be their issues there that the social worker can help them resolve in order to gain and achieve something in life. It's a challenge. It's interesting. How do you get people to do the right thing? How do you get people to be productive? How do you get people out of poverty? How do you get people to behave like human beings? It's a challenge. It can be interesting. There are people who like to work with people. And, just like being a doctor is a challenge, it's interesting. You're helping people. A psychologist, you're helping people. So I don't think being a social worker is any different. Now, a charity, people would start charities around topics and issues that they care about. For example, a charity that funds cancer research because they want to see cancer cured. They might get cancer, their kids might get cancer, their friends might get cancer. They'd like to see more research into cancer, to cure cancer. The government's not funding cancer, so they start a research thing. Or they love babies. The potential in babies, the beauty in babies, the innocence of babies. They love children and babies. So they start a charity to help children and babies who are poor, and the charity will provide them with an education or provide them with shoes or whatever it happens to be. Right? So there won't be a lot of charities, I think, under laissez-faire capitalism because people will be relatively wealthy, but there'll be some, and there'll be those that align with the values of the people setting them up and funding them. But again, it's a challenge. It's interesting. How do you help children in a productive way? All right. Let's see. All right, where are we? Oops. All right, not your average algorithm. It's so old and unpredictable which personalities people follow blindly. Hitler and Trump don't strike me as particularly likable and charismatic, yet these supporters would fight and die for them. Yeah, but almost all dictators wouldn't strike you as likable and charismatic. Perón in Latin America and Argentina was not particularly likable or charismatic. The military dictators in Brazil were not particularly likable or charismatic. Stalin, you wouldn't view as particularly likable or charismatic. But they are all likable and charismatic to some people. They all hook into the mindlessness of the masses. They all provide the masses, the unthinking, the missing links, with some value, with something they can latch onto. And that's who they need. They don't need you. You're never going to like them. You're never going to follow them. But you're not the target audience. You think too much. You're too independent. They're looking for people who are not independent, who are not thinkers. That's what they thrive on. Rez, thank you, 50 Australian dollars, really appreciate it. Just seen a video of an Australian officer confiscating a sign from Palestinian protesters after they egged on a child to stomp on the poster after the child approached them and said, "Free Palestine." All playing out in front of the officer. All right, I'm not sure I understand. So these protesters egged on a child to stomp on the poster after the child approached them and said, "Free Palestine." Yeah, and the cop took it away, confiscated it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What did the sign say? And why did they egg the child on to stomp on the poster? What was the poster about? Was the poster a pro-Israel poster? I guess I don't quite understand the setup. Officer claimed he was confiscating as this would create division and lead to violence at the protest. All comments under the video are supportive of the officer's action. Free speech be damned, apparently. Oh, I see. So, yeah, I mean, officers should not be confiscating posters. Now, the whole idea of people protesting, the whole idea of people engaging in counter-protests in public and potentially violence against one another, you really have to think about whether that is something that we should really be protecting and whether that is something, of value. But yes, once we allow protests, you can't decide you can't say this or you can't write that or you can't do this or you can't do that. Once you allow protests, it's in the realm of free speech, and the government has to protect free speech, even speech they don't like, even speech they find offensive, even speech that's insulting. Oh, the poster was a picture of Netanyahu. I see. Yep. So, yeah, the whole thing is ridiculous. How the police decide and don't decide, and what's offensive and what's not offensive. Once you open the door to being able to limit hate speech, you're in completely subjective territory, and you're outside. You've already violated free speech, and this is just an example of that. James, was Jordan Belfort an actual criminal or a scapegoat like Mike Milken? I don't know. I don't know the case well enough. I'd have to really do the research to figure it out, and I haven't. Liam, do you think the transition to objectivism will happen quite quickly once we reach a critical mass, or will it be a gradual transition of removing regulations and taxes over generations or centuries? I think it'll be gradual. I don't think it'll be all at once. I think it'll be gradual. And it won't be centuries, but it'll be over generations. There's a lot of work to be done, even once people are convinced of the truth of objectivism. They have to understand it, they have to know how to apply it, and then you have to capture the political high ground. You have to know what to do in order to achieve your goals once you achieve that political, and unwinding the regulatory state is not easy. So it could take a while. No, the government regulating the stock market so as to prevent fraud is not the same as the government interference in the economy via the Federal Reserve, etc., right, Yaron? Well, it depends. What does it mean to prevent fraud? That is, if they're prosecuting fraud, then that's legit. But what does prevention of fraud mean? Does that mean they force companies to make disclosures? That's wrong. That's as bad as government interfering in the economy in other ways. All the different ways in which they control and regulate the stock market because they might be fraud. All of that is inappropriate, and all of that is destructive, and all of that creates damage. Maybe not as much damage as the Federal Reserve can do. True, the Federal Reserve is much more dangerous in that regard, but it's still wrong and it's still destructive. The government's job is to prosecute fraud, not to prevent fraud. How do you actually, it's not to, it's just like, yeah, we're going to prevent robbery by forcing you to have bulletproof glass and what do you call them, metal gating and, thick doors and that we're going to prevent burglary. Well, no, it's not the government's job to prevent burglary. The government's job is to catch the burglars and to put them in jail and to stop the burglary if they get there in time to be able to stop it. But it's not to regulate people's lives in order to prevent it. Thank you, Noel. Hopper Campbell, do you find the younger generation have a lack of integrity? There's much more betrayal and backstabbing with Gen Z than boomers. I don't know. I have no experience with that. I just don't know. It might be true, but I don't find it one way or the other. You guys have more experience dealing with Gen Zs than I have, but I haven't seen it. Not your average algorithm. I've been watching a lot of Matt Walsh's disgusting videos he's been putting out lately. I get the sense he wants to go full Nazi, but is worried about losing his cushy job with Ben Shapiro. Well, he wants to go full-on religious authoritarian. I think that's true. And I think you're right. He would become an anti-Semite very quickly, if not for the fact that he works for Ben Shapiro, and he's got a very cushy job there. Yep, I think that's right. He is really, really bad. All right, guys, thank you. We're $10 short of the $500 goal, but that is fantastic. Thank you to all the super chatters. Thank you for, just hanging in there in spite of all my technical problems, in spite of all the challenges of putting this show together. Might do a show tomorrow after my seminar. I will see. I hope to do one tomorrow, but no guarantee. And yeah, have a great weekend. And I look forward to seeing some of you at the seminar tomorrow, those of you from London. And the rest of you, I'll either see tomorrow. I'll definitely do a show on Sunday. Again, the Wi-Fi or computer or whatever the problem was, God's permitting, there will be a show. Thank you, guys. See you soon. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.